Okay, welcome.
Oh, it can't be any further.
All right, yeah, this is math class. So, just a quick review, and pay attention because, especially for the honors classes, the last problems, starting around number 9, are so new and different that you really want to watch how to do it. So if you're bored up until then, go ahead and skip a little bit ahead. But let's just remind you, we're talking about perfect square trinomials. Okay? Which factor, like into perfect square binomials? Okay, so we have to look and see this is something being squared, right? And look and see this is something being squared, right? Once you find what A and B are, you have your answer. So what's being squared here? What's being squared here? Now, you check and make sure you're right. Does this term equal 2AB? 2 times A times B. 2 times 5 is 10 times V. 10V. It does. Now, this is a plus, but it could just as easily have been a minus. So, if this is a minus, then this is a minus. You get it? If this says minus, then this will say minus. Okay, so that's where you resolve your sign. So, let's just take a quick look at the end. Well, you know I'm right. So, we could do it again, and again, and again. Here's one, and we'll check this answer for you so that you know. So, I'm looking for what is A and what is B. What is A and what is B? What is being squared to give you 49y squared? 7y. What is being squared to give you 16u squared? 4u. There's your A and there's your B. This is a minus, so this is a minus. 7y minus 4u squared. Okay? So, this one I will actually put in for you. 7y minus 4u, and then we square it. Okay, so, and I'm lucky because the caps lock is on and it gave me that right anyway. Usually it's not going to work if you put in caps and it's lowercase. Okay, so try another. Okay, so what's being squared and what's being squared? Well, 2u is being squared and 9x is being squared. So 2u is being squared and it's a plus. Okay, I'm going to probably add a couple more of those problems into there with the multiple variables. Too easy. Okay, what we're looking for, we're going to make it a perfect square. So we're going to make this like one of those problems that says a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, and the way we're going to do that Here's our a squared. Here's our 2ab. And our b squared is what we're looking for. So this number here equals 2 times a times b. Here's our a, is y, right? So this number, negative 12, is 2 times b. So divide this in half. If this is 2 times b, and we're looking for b, divide this in half. You get negative 6. And then square it. Because this is b squared. This is b. This is b squared. Negative 6 squared. Don't say negative 36, because negative times a negative is positive 36. Okay, so you're just going to put positive 36, and you're going to check. Okay, so in this case, that negative sign isn't going to matter. But if we were going the next step and actually factoring this, we would get y minus 6 squared. Okay, and we're going to put a few of them into this assignment where you're actually going to factor it. So pay attention. So half of this, and then square it. So negative 4, and then square it. Positive 16. Okay? So half of this, and then square it. So half of this, and then square it. Okay, so these will go pretty quick if you know what you're doing. Okay? So now let's look at the next problem type. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit more complex. What we have to do now is make this into a perfect square and then have other stuff with it. This is going to give us what's called the vertex form of the quadratic. You remember when we were doing this and we were transforming a graph? Do you remember that? We would shift it to the right 2 and up 4 and stretch it by 3. Do you remember we would take x squared and we would move it and transform it? Okay. Well, what we're doing when we do that is we're finding the vertex. So if you had x squared, here's the vertex at 0, 0. If I shifted it, let's say I had x minus 2 squared plus 3. I would shift this 2 to the right and 3 higher. And this would give you the vertex. When it's in this form, when it's minus h, this would give you the vertex of that new parabola. That's why we call this the vertex form. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to put this into this shape and then take the vertex out of it. So why don't we do that? So this is number 9, by the way. So what we're going to do here is the first step is to factor out this number that's with x. We're going to group these together. Here, I'm just going to walk through one of them. And by the second one, you probably understand. X squared minus 2x. And I'm going to leave that in its own place, and I'm going to put minus 1 out here. I'm just moving this over. Now I'm looking to complete the square of this inside piece. So half of this, -1, squared, plus 1. So I'm adding 1 here. Now I can't change this from what it was. So whatever I did on the inside of these parentheses, I'm going to undo on the outside of them. So if I added 1, I would be subtracting 1, okay? But I didn't add 1. I added 3 times 1 to what I started with. So I added 3. So I'm going to undo that by subtracting. Whoops, I'm putting the answer there. By subtracting 3. I'm going to undo that. Okay, now what I have is 3 times, and this is a perfect square trinomial. So a squared and b squared. A squared and b squared. Since this is a minus, that's a minus. That's what this is now inside the parentheses. Okay, and outside the parentheses I have -4. So here, since this is already a minus, this is my h. So my vertex is going to be at the coordinates 1, -4. In other words, if I was graphing this, I would shift it right 1 and down 4. I really personally think this is a lot of fun, but I had some trouble trying to enter this answer from this computer. I went into the other room. It works on the other computer. So if it doesn't work, I'm not going to spend any more time with it. 3 times x minus 1 squared -4. Now, the biggest mistake I've made, I've done a bunch of these problems, is I lose a sign somewhere. And then I got to go back and fix it. Hopefully I'm getting better at paying attention. Okay, so let's see. Correct. Good. Yay, I like it when a plan comes together. So we're going to look at that process again. And again, now if you look at what I started with, there's no way I know how to graph that without making a table and putting in values, which is challenging because you don't know where the vertex is. So you might put in a whole bunch of values and just get to the vertex, so you really just have a half a graph. Okay, so to put this into this form, now it's easy to graph. Now I know this parabola would be at -1, -4. So here would be the vertex, and if I was graphing it, I know that it would be tall and skinny because it's stretched by a factor of 3. And it would be really easy for me to draw the graph of this function now that I've put it in this form. Okay, so this is the fun stuff. So why don't we try another? Okay, so again, I'm grouping these two terms together, and I'm factoring out a -2. And I'm leaving a little room so I can complete the square. And I'm putting that -48 out there. Okay? So, half of this squared. Half of 10 squared. Now I have a perfect, look, perfect square trinomial, perfect square binomial. That's what this piece is. That's why we learned that in the first part. Okay? Put everything else back in, and remember, what did I do here? What did I add here? not 25, negative 2 times 25. So I added negative 50 to the inside. So I'm going to undo that by adding positive 50 to the outside. See, that undoes that. So I have the same thing when I'm done. I can't just go adding something to this. I've changed it if I do. So I have to undo what I added here, remembering that it's times negative 2. And I have to undo it here. So I get, which means my vertex is at, some of you are saying 5, 2. What's your mistake there? Well, your mistake is that this is x minus h if you want this to be h. So I'm subtracting negative 5. That's how I get plus 5. So I have to change this sign because it's x minus the h coordinate. Now remember, this is your vertex when it's in this form. This is your vertex, is at these coordinates when it's in this form. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and enter that now, and hopefully you have got this down. Hopefully you're pausing and trying one real quick right now. And if you need to, come back and watch it again. This computer is a little buggy, especially with the projector on it. So please forgive me that I take a couple of minutes here to do this. And then down here is negative 5, 2. Incorrect. Both parts. Okay, let's see what I didn't put in, the same as what I worked out. Negative 2 times x plus 5 plus 2. 5, 2. All right, you experts. Let's see what I did wrong right here. Remember I told you my most common mistake was losing a sign? If I factor negative 2 out of this, that becomes negative 10. Just that simple. So this needs to be a minus, and then this turns back to a plus. Hopefully you see what I'm saying. This here becomes minus 5. See, when I took the negative 2 out of 20x, I should have made that negative 10. Okay, so you can laugh at me if you want, but he who laughs last, and all that stuff. Okay, x minus 5, and then this becomes plus 5. Okay, so not only did I tell you what the most common mistake was, I could say I did that on purpose. I showed you what the common mistake was. Okay, so this is how you do that. Okay, again, you're bumping this off to the side. You're factoring this out of the first two terms. Why don't I just show you one more? If you think you got it, try one. Okay? Why don't I just do one more? So I'm factoring 2 out of the first two. X squared minus 6x. And then I'm bumping this over here. I'm going to complete the square. Negative 3 squared. 9. I didn't add 9 though. What did I add? I added 2 times 9. See that? I added 18 right here. I have to undo that. So I subtract 18. So now I have this, I know, is x minus 3 squared. Why did I say minus 3? Because there's a subtraction in front of this. There's a 2 outside here. And out here, 17 minus 18, that's negative 1. Now I'm going to take 3 is h, negative 1 is k. So my vertex is at 3, negative 1. And here is this, f of x equals that. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in. And then I'm going to upload this video for you. This took me 2 hours to get right. But it is the first attempt at doing this from home. So hopefully you can hear me just fine. Correct. Yay. All right, kids. Well, good luck. Let's just make sure there are no other types of problems on here to worry about. Nope. But you do have quite a few of them to practice. All right. Thank you. Is Sarah here? Sarah, I've been trying to get in touch with you. Please get in touch with me as soon as you can. Thank you.